Hello there, and good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and children.
Good morning, good afternoon, good night, hello. We're back for another presentation of Dons with Bonds. I'm extremely excited to be here. However, I do understand that the name kind of inflicts on itself, being that I have no other Dons here with me. I'm the only Don. It should be Don with a bond, even though I have no bond on my release or my bail or anything. It's more of a conceptual thing. I should probably dive into that eventually too, is saying why I'm using Dons with Bonds as my name. And I'm sorry, my camera's like all off position and shit, but whatever. But yeah, that'll be a story for another day. But just wanted to get into one topic today specifically. I've been wanting to talk about this for a while. It's AI and different types of AI, which I'm excited to talk about because I feel like I have a lackluster understanding, and I kind of, push myself through topics like this to learn more about them and just see the reality of the situation. And, because a lot of the times you see just bullshit on social media, or you just see information, you hear information from an unreliable source, and for whatever reason, you may get into like this turmoil or this crazy thought pattern to this like non-existent destination, or like these worries that don't necessarily exist or that should exist and you should be worrying about more. But yeah, I'd say right now I have no worries, as you can tell by the arsenal behind me. The Eagles won the motherfucking Super Bowl. That's something that can't be recreated with AI. The way they put a fucking whooping on them boys out there in Kansas City, I think that it is an immaculate representation of how divine intervention cannot be reframed or reorganized, and there's only one form of life, especially when it's true to itself and it's true to the process and true to God, and that's fucking Philadelphia Eagle football, baby. I think it was such a whooping. It was such a flex for all the Eagles and all the Philadelphia fans that have dealt with so much over the past 10, 20 years of being Eagles fans. I think now is the time of a reckoning, and, all my predecessors who have been Eagles fans are just so pissed at me and my younger generation because we're so lucky to have seen so many Super Bowls. But as my cousin said, you guys walked so we could run. But without further ado, I wanted to talk about some AI, that was a terrible bridge point, but my whole thing, I heard this on Joe Rogan one time, and the guy that was talking to him about AI, cannot remember who it was, but he said that anything artificial can't truly be intelligent, and anything intelligent can't be truly artificial. And this, in terms of directly relating to artificial intelligence, is just saying that it might be a simulation of intelligence, or like a pattern recognition, or even a problem, like solving a problem, rather than it being like an actual authentic response, or like an experience they may have had, or just them going off of their own experience or intelligence. That's kind of, I guess, my argument here. And again, with the quote, anything artificial can't be intelligent, and anything intelligent or with intelligence can't be artificial. There's like some philosophical ideas behind this too, or it could be like pretty objective in terms of the analysis of that. I didn't look into this, but John Searle's Chinese room argument was something that they provided, that was an argument in the past for this. And then there's just discussions about like stronger AI versus weaker AI. And I've truly always felt like Google, like the search engine, since its dawning, has been an AI, because it's just taking word recognition and giving you like links in response to that. If you notice, like after a few years, if you typed in an answer, like if you were taking college courses and you needed to find a solution or an answer on the internet, you can almost always copy and paste that answer to Google, and the exact answer would pop up or something along those lines. And I feel like that was the first dawn of like AI, not like a physical one, but it was like them dipping their toe and seeing how accurate the responses could be on like a search or even just like a general question. Because if you know anything about Google search, when I search in Google, I talk to it how I'm talking to like a friend. It's very informal, zero punctuation, and I almost always would get a response of an answer or something. Like if you ask about when did World War II end, or when did we storm Normandy, it'll give you like an exact date. I know those are like simple answers, but it almost always will give you the exact response. And there's been a lot of different companies. Obviously, if you've been involved in stocks or anything like that, or you just watch the fucking news, you can see how much AI is getting funded right now with all this fake money. Even though a lot of these companies don't even have the liquidity for these projects, they're just promising money into AI because they know it's gonna, or they think it's gonna blow up, and they'll get a return on that money. But there's different companies like DeepMind, NVIDIA, OpenAI, which everybody's heard of. They're like pushing the boundaries of everything, use of incredibly massive data sets, neural networks, to like simulate the human-like behavior, which is everything that you read about AI almost exactly interprets as that it's simulating the human behavior. But then you see all these arguments about how it's still intelligent and has its own intelligence, which I'm just staunchly against, because I don't, no matter how accurate or human-like it may seem, it's not an intelligent response. It's giving you a response from another data set. So like, to me, to kind of like get ahead of the curve a little bit, I just think that AI is going to stall out, and I don't think it's going to be as promising as everybody thinks. I think what's the magic behind it is what I'm going to get into. It's not the actual tech of AI. It's what powers the AI. So AIs don't think or understand in the ways humans do, but instead of pattern-based match, predict on data they have. But like I said about power, it powers the AI. I got into some articles about organoid intelligence. It's a unique development that blurs the lines of artificial systems and biological intelligence. So once you get into this, you're starting to get into biology. Excuse me. You could explain how organoids may affect this, and they're basically all right, I just completely tried to think and talk at the same time. Organoids are miniaturized brain-like structures grown from human stem cells, and they can eventually be used to create machines with more organic intelligence. So yeah, I mean, like, pretty straightforward. It's using stem cells to power a computer, which is essentially giving it human-like attributes. But one specific company I found was called Final Spark. They're experimenting with all these technologies, emphasizing how OI is what they call it, not AI, OI, organoid intelligence, could potentially offer a more authentic form of intelligence by mimicking the complexity of the human brain at a cellular level. There's a lot of philosophical and ethical questions, like if the organoid system can adapt and respond in ways similar to human brains, does it mean it's true intelligence, or is it just a simulation? And a lot of these notes, I got the references and the articles from OpenAI, because I thought who else to have this conversation with and like bounce ideas or just questions off of than AI itself. And I actually got a lot of different like point of views from it itself. It gave a lot of interesting responses, and it's funny that this is all like full circle in the fact that I'm having this discussion about AI and the limits of it, but also I utilized it fully to get the information and get the feedback. But anyway, it mentioned Final Spark, and it was an interesting company. It had a weird website, and essentially the Final Spark website, what you could do is you could go and rent out like a petri dish of whatever stem cells they were growing and utilize it for your company for OI or AI. So if you had like a solution that you needed, you could rent out this petri dish, which is essentially like renting out a computer, but you're renting out a computer that's ran by these organoid brain cells and these stem cells. So you could rent out the computer, code it, you put whatever you need to happen or get solved within it. That's my understanding, and basically rent out the brain cells. And it was such a weird, like, discovery, because you go on the website and it's just like, hey, rent out this brain petri dish. And then it was just like mad indirect, so you had to like get in contact with the representative. It was weird. We're kind of bridging AI and OI because obviously there's a difference between them, and how they replicate and give us what we're looking for. And it just kind of bases it to the point like AI is basically an algorithm and OI is obviously using human technology or human anatomy. And can intelligence or responses like that be reduced to an AI algorithm and data pattern? Or do these responses require something inherently human that has consciousness, emotion, experience? And I was just like poking AI's head on this, and I broke it down into its response and then the questions I asked, and it talked about the quote I discussed earlier. I said, I think the quote, this is AI speaking, I think the quote touches on a deep philosophical issue, what intelligence really is and whether it can exist outside of the natural biological world. It raises a very interesting dichotomy between what we understand as artificial and intelligent, and whether the two can coexist in a meaningful way. On one hand, the idea that anything artificial can't be intelligent suggests a distinction between things that arise from nature, things that evolve organically like human intelligence, and things created through human intervention or technology. This could be a critique of the current state of AI, implying that no matter how advanced it gets, it lacks deeper qualities of the consciousness, self-awareness, and emotional depth that we associate with true intelligence in this sense. AI always seems to be limited to a form of simulation rather than a genuine understanding or sentience. On the other hand, the counterpoint, anything intelligent with intelligence can't be artificial, seems to argue that for something truly intelligent, it must arise from a natural processes such as human brain or any complex biological system. This might be a push against the idea that machines or artificial systems could ever fully replicate human-like cognition or awareness. For me, the quote feels a bit too rigid because I think intelligence could be more fluid, potentially exist in forms we haven't fully grasped yet. For example, AI evolves, or we look into new areas like organoid intelligence, we might start to question whether intelligence can be artificially created or if it's limited to organic systems. And I responded as if I was talking to the AI. I said, I feel as this topic is a matter. Oh my gosh. I feel as if the topic of this matter has to be divergent in black and white. Otherwise, people can misconstrue the true meaning of this technology and eventually abuse it. This is a sci-fi reference, but Warhammer, the video game, Titan soldiers utilize scarred, trauma-filled children to power their war machine suits for the soldiers who are truly living, willing, fit for that circumstance. I predict that this tech is mishandled, that this similar product might ensue. So very similar to how I spoke to, what was it called? I can't remember. Final Spark. How you could rent out the Petri dishes. That's if you played Warhammer 40,000 with the Titans, like that's exactly what they do. They literally get like some sort of organoid or what used to be an organoid and shove it into a Petri dish of whatever to keep it constantly running 24/7. And then you just get something in this particular story, a military war machine to be powered by it. And it's like, that's the real world context of that. It just seems so dystopian, but it makes fucking sense to how that could eventually become a thing. Because imagine if there's already military practices being utilized for some of these cells and some of these soldiers using organoid intelligence to power something militarized. And even though it's in the early stages, it's still being tested in various experimental groups and setups. Final Spark and other biotech companies are exploring how organoid systems can be integrated into technology. In the lab, researchers are using OI to study brain function and explore the potential applications in neuroscience, medicine, and AI. The idea is that these organoids could be interfaced with machines, creating a system where the intelligence isn't entirely artificial, but rather a blend of biological mechanical systems. OI is used in small-scale applications like drug testing, neurological resource, and possibly the development of biologically powered computers. The big question is whether these organoid systems capable of learning, adapting, can truly be considered intelligent. If they can react and think similarly to a human brain, does that mean they process actual intelligence, or are they just imitating it? These brings up ethical concerns if a system is made of brain cells Can it learn, evolve, and possibly into that system have a conscious system or even moral rights? So now you're getting into like constitutional rights for a computer that's literally a petri dish of brain cells. And then you're going to have to go into this computer, ask it human questions about its rights, about what decisions it wants to be made. It's so much to think and digest all at once, because AI is one construct and it's controllable and it's still a computer and it's still a non-living thing. So we have complete grasp on it. I feel like the people who understand AI look at this bridge and that's when you get freaked out, because it's not the intelligence, it's what powers the intelligence that is fucked up. And then this is just an interesting bridge. So I'm going to go off a lot about Final Spark here. It seems that there might be confusion around the name Final Spark. As of now, there isn't a well-known, widely referenced company. And this is me asking ChatGPT and going into Google and looking up the company and details about the company. As of now, there isn't a well-known, widely referenced company by the name directly related to the organoid intelligence or biotech, at least in the mainstream sources or popular media. It's possible that Final Spark could be a smaller, newer company, a specific research project, or even a concept from fiction. But it doesn't appear to have significant public exposure in terms of biotech companies dealing with the organoid intelligence. Now, if you look up organoid intelligence, this company I think this company comes up. I can't remember if it does or it doesn't. But you think something like this would be publicized, not publicly traded, but like it would be publicized, and it would be something where you could find like, oh, this is the CEO, this is the COO, this is who invests the funds to figure this out, this is from this organization, this is stemming from Pfizer or whatever. But you go onto the website and there's nothing. You can't get into contact with these people. If you go down to the contact section, you put in your information and they get back to you with the representative. And then there's like a donor page. And then if you go to the donor page, you put in obviously name, email, number, and then your donor amount. And the fucking donations start at like 100 to 1,000, and it's 1,000 to 10,000, 10,000 to 100,000, 100,000 to 1,000,000. So they're not taking small chunks of change. I mean, I'm sure you could, but you saw the gaps. They're taking up to 100,000, and then it goes like to 1,000,000 plus. So even on the website of Final Spark, it shows some information about it, but to get in contact with these people, impossible. Make a donation, very fucking possible. But to get anything like social media, go on their Twitter, gone. No Twitter. They were banned from Twitter in like 2021. No Facebook, no Instagram, obviously. I'm sure they fucking have some weird brand, but like it just says like it's a fucking smaller startup. It's like untraceable, untrackable. Why are they not tracking it? Why is this untracked, untamed? I mean, I get it. It's like a shitty startup. Like nobody's going to put like this exuberant amount of money in something that could fail. I don't know if maybe I'm sounding like I'm complaining that this isn't. I'm not complaining that it's not more funded, but I guess I'm complaining that it's not focused on that this is happening, that this is a thing right now, this is actively being studied. Came up with some other discoveries per se about different types of AI, because organoid intelligence, obviously you see there's so many different like moral and ethical issues with just that technology in general. Like when you get to start saying that a computer needs civil rights and constitutional rights, and it's like, what are we getting at here? What are we doing? But this specifically, I've read an article. I'll pop it up here. It was called "A New Approach to Developing Quantum Computers, Artificial General Intelligence, and Autonomous Cars Using a Natural Quantum Algorithm." So again, I used AI to digest this. I read it. Impossible to like take an understanding. It's literally quantum physics. I have no understanding of quantum physics, but I have like an understanding of science and nature. So tried to like basically, I literally copy and pasted sections into a ChatGPT and told him to summarize it and give it basically in like a books for dummies way. And I'll say I have in red and green in my notes, like the red is the difficult responses and the green is the easy ones. So this article, I dove into it, and it was talking about that instead of programming these AI computers with organisms and organoids and cells and stem cells, but to rather use quantum physics, quantum behaviors, and quantum fucking algorithms. So they're suggesting that programmed computers with specific algorithm computers could behave in a way that mirrors quantum behaviors of particles like electrons. So the code that AI uses now is the binary code, which is ones and zeros. So it indicates that they're talking about a digital system, which is how traditional computers work. And that, if you're trying to get the algorithm for the atom versus just using ones and zeros, there's a symmetry here that's mentioned to describe the numbers and how data might behave in circular patterns resembling wave functions, quantum physics. This is saying that numbers can essentially rotate or oscillate along an orbit without disrupting the overall system, similar to how electrons move in their orbitals without breaking a wave or symmetry. So I know I said a lot of bullshit there, but ones and zeros in computers, they're essentially just turning on and off. Like a 1 and a 0 is on, off, on, off. So you have this system of ones and zeros that tells the computer what to turn on and off to get certain responses, versus them predicting how an atom is modeled and having these numbers circulate the same way they do in an atom or in quantum physics. So imagine trying to get a computer to think like a brain. Normally computers work using ones and zeros, just flipping between on and off. But what if there was a way to make them more like a brain, something that can adapt and think and have consciousness? And just to start to mold this thought, like the reason this came about was there's this Noether's theorem about superstition and symmetry, or superposition and symmetry. This guy is Noether, Noether. He essentially said electrons are so identical that even if you swap one electron with another anywhere in the universe, nothing changes. They are fundamentally indistinguishable. This led him to believe that the mind-bending idea that all electrons might be actually the same single electron traveling back and forth through space and time to appear everywhere at once. So his theory and the AI's response, or in the article's response, was that it connects symmetry and energy conservation, which is a cornerstone of modern physics. It is the idea that certain symmetries in physical systems, such as a rotational symmetry, imply that the conservation of certain quantities like energy. Speaker suggests that the perfect rotational symmetry, a balance where data can rotate without disrupting the system, could somehow break time. This implies that by aligning digital systems like computers or algorithms with quantum principles, we could achieve some sort of control or manipulation over time or the flow of information. The idea of consciousness here to be linked with the current flowing through the system, the circuit. The speaker seems to argue that consciousness emerges from the quantum process within these circuits, perhaps drawing a parallel with the idea that consciousness could arise from quantum mechanics, an idea explored in theories like the orchestrated objective reduction by Roger Penrose. The mention of superconducting current ties back to the idea that consciousness might involve a special kind of electric current that flows with the perfect efficiency, potentially related to the theories like quantum coherence of the brain. So people are essentially trying to quantify these beliefs into algorithms and then power computers off of it, which I understand why they're choosing organoid intelligence, because it's already made in there and you can just use the natural system within it, versus you trying to sit down and like delace fucking the fabric of time and reality and then put that into a computer. But if you read that to any understanding or heard it to any understanding, you notice that if someone can do that, quantum computer, you have a computer that can damn near bend space and time. The person talking to the theory says computers could work more like atoms in our body. Atoms are made up of electrons. The electrons move in orbits. Now, this is the breakdown for dummies on what I just read. Around other nucleus, kind of like how planets move around the sun. These electrons don't just randomly fly around. They stick to specific orbits and can only move within these orbits without breaking the whole system. So imagine if you could design a computer where its data numbers could rotate like electrons on their orbits without ever disrupting the whole system. This would create symmetry, a kind of balance. Now this is where quantum physics comes into quantum Quantum physics, there is a thing called superposition. It means that it can exist in multiple states at once. Imagine you have the numbers or data floating around in the perfect circles, but they don't crash or disrupt each other. They just keep rotating, moving, but never breaking the harmony of the system. That's the symmetry. So in the theory here, the symmetry in these computers could actually change the way we think about time. It's like bending the rules of time and energy. So in essence, this could be a way of envisioning computers that don't just process information in a static binary way, but instead involve and adapt in quantum-like processes that reflect the natural world's underlying laws, potentially even unlocking new forms of artificial intelligence or consciousness. So in simple terms, what the speaker is saying, that if we program computers with these quantum rules where the numbers move in orbits and follow symmetry, these computers might have eventually become conscious or intelligent in a way that is more like human brains than traditional binary computers. These computers wouldn't just process data, they could think and move complex and natural way like atoms and electrons in the real world. So, very fucking cool. And I'll show you the visual aspect of how this guy had this stuff drawn out. If you're watching the visual form to this podcast, this is kind of how he said the numbers were aligned in the atoms. And now imagine this like on a projector screen that'd be clear, and this layering this grid like a million times over itself is essentially the quantum theory, or the numbers that are aligning in the quantum theory. So if we could somehow get these organized into a computer algorithm, that it would be able to function like an atom. So this is essentially all of the electrons bordering the numbers that quantify an electron, and then he like color coded it based on this being the nucleus, I guess. And it's just, oh, okay, so this is an accurate digital representation of an atom. So they're essentially saying that if they formulated this into a computer algorithm, that it would be able to function like an atom, thus giving the computer atom like power. And then they're saying that atoms are essentially the construct of space and time, so these computers could function in space and time travel, and then we could figure out time traveling. And then I started thinking to fucking Back to the Future, and when I started reading this, and I was like, what if that is what he just figured out, that you know, life is quantifiable by numbers, or at least the theory of life, and that's exactly how this was stumbled upon. Was, I don't know. I mean, it fucks me up, like, reading all this. I didn't even touch on a lot of the stuff that I wanted to get to, but I guess my final point here would be, ironically, that this article included the Tesla connection. There was a reference to Nikola Tesla. He pointed out to a theory where the speaker believes that pure electronic current, similar to Tesla's ideas, could be the underlying essence of consciousness. Tesla famously believed that the understanding the nature of electricity would unlock a deeper understanding of the universe, which the speaker appears to agree with, suggesting that this superconducting current is at the heart of the consciousness in quantum computation. The theory also brings the idea of consciousness. The person suggests that electric current running through the system is what makes consciousness possible, but it's not just any electric current, it's a special type. It's like a superconductor, which means that it moves without resistance, making everything run super smoothly. The theory goes on to say that the real consciousness might be tied to this pure current that powers everything, just like how our brains might work. And what that means, our bodies always have a current running through them, electrical current. That's why when you see the heart monitor, it goes boop, boop. It's taking your heart rate or whatever, but it's measuring the static electrical pulse going through your body. That's why when people go clear and they shock you back to life, they're sending a high electrical pulse into your body to jumpstart your heart, get it beating again. But yeah, I know I did kind of like a half-ass like books for dummies dive into this topic, but it's something I wanted to talk about for a while now. Obviously with the topics and the stuff that it ties together. It's kind of crazy, and to only see where this might grow to, or where it might stumble and fall into a pit, which I believe is more likely to happen. I mean, I still think there's obviously the ability for creators and great powers to take these technologies and run with them into the sunset and fund them until they are no more and use them in their own way. But I mean, if this was gonna? I mean, like, why not just pay all this money for desalinization? Like, we're all complaining about fresh water. Like, just get some. Like, they're like, desalinization is so expensive. Dubai does it, and they do pretty fucking good. They regrew a whole forest in the middle of the desert off of desalinization. That country's doing pretty fucking good last time I checked. It's probably one of the richest countries. Abu Dhabi or no, Dubai, in the UAE and the Emirates. Not that they're better than America, but fuck, like, can we take a little notion of their like futuristic practices and use them for our own good? Instead, we're fucking using petri dishes for computers, and we're trying to fucking find the algorithm of the brain. Oh, and my mistake. The black and white number layout was the algorithm of the brain. They go in circles like waves. It's essentially, that's a brain wave. So that's one brain wave. So stacked up a million times on itself. And we're trying to figure that out as a computer rather than just fucking making some salt water in the ocean fucking fresh and just fucking doing something that would work for once. But no, let's put a baby's brain in a petri dish and power a fucking computer so some data company can see what fucking Instagram ad I jack off to and which one I buy a fucking Phillies hat off of. It's fucking ridiculous. That's why I think this shit's gonna... Somebody's vacuuming. That's why I think this is gonna fall flat on its fucking face. All this AI shit's gonna fall flat on its fucking face. Because back to my original point, you can't recreate greatness. You can't recreate the human mind. Maybe in a few numbers, but it's not gonna be the same. If you're telling me you can make Jalen Hurts' fucking brain a computer, you would have fucking done it already, and you would have put it in fucking Lamar Jackson and made him a fucking Super Bowl contender every fucking year. But no, he loses in the fucking semis, and he goes to fucking Boca Raton with all of his boys and his guys. I'm sorry. The Eagles won the fucking Super Bowl, and if you think that shit's fucking coming from organoid intelligence or an atom computer or AI, I fucking guarantee you it's not. Thanks.